Hello, everybody. Welcome to Profiling Evil Choir Practice. I'm Mike. Skyeler, how you doing tonight?
Good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well. I got my COVID booster shot today, so I'm starting to feel it. But busy day. It's getting colder here in the northern Utah area, and it's beautiful outside though. And I want to shout out to everybody that's starting to pour in. Especially, I want to shout out to our mods and say thank you so much for taking care of things tonight. And for all of you folks, I go back and I read these comments, Skyeler, and I read through the chats, and people don't always agree, but they always keep it at a high bar on the way they critique and add feelings. So Diane Phoenix, hello. Nicole Marie, hello. Mimi J2, great to see you. Kentucky Bluebird is here, and that's great to see you. Pat Stiller, CM, thanks. You're here every week as well, and all of you, just thanks so much. We're gonna kind of do this thing the way we've been doing it the last couple of weeks. We listened, right, Skyeler? Or I listened finally.
Yeah, I don't know about we. Yeah, we're doing AMA again. So AMAs, for those of you new tonight, you might know it on a broader scale as Ask Me Anything, but here on Profiling Evil, it's Ask Mike Anything, right?
There you go.
So it kind of worked out that way. So all we do tonight is answer your questions. They could be related to cases happening out there. It can be related to what's Mike's favorite ice cream flavor, what's Tyler in the back office's, favorite hat, and Tim's beard length, anything. We can answer anything. This is just a night to hang out, relax, enjoy, and answer questions very quickly.
And I just want to say thanks to all of you who wrote such kind notes saying you appreciate when I drone on a little longer, but I do try to cut them back on AMA nights because there are so many questions. And I'm hoping that Tim's in the back office and can drop his equipment long enough to jump on and just give us a quick update on the B.O.L.O and where we are this week and what's coming out down the pike.
Hey, I need to.
How long is that beard?
Get nice and close.
Get some light on it. There we go.
Lots of gray in that beard.
I was taking a selfie with somebody once, and they said, "You have the tallest head," and most, quarter of its beard at this point. Anyway, the B.O.L.O. So we have a couple of podcasts that Mike hosts, the Profiling Evil podcast. If you haven't subscribed to that on Apple or listen on Spotify or any of the other podcast services, be sure to do so. We like to get those out to the B.O.L.O subscribers before the content goes live on Friday. So we usually kick those out a little bit in advance. Then we also have a podcast that Mike was a guest on. I believe it was a bonus episode down in Australia. Is that part of the Mapping Evil podcast?
No, actually, yeah, it was something called Directions with Stan Grant. Stan Grant is a big time Aussie personality. This is like the Dr. Phil's of Aussie, and he did a podcast series that he invited me on to talk about crime and true crime, and so that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to use the B.O.L.O to introduce your audience to that podcast. And since they're most likely Mike King fans, they're going to want to listen to it. So subscribe to the B.O.L.O because we're also in a few weeks going to be doing another book giveaway. Those are a lot of fun. It's a great way to engage with you. We're actually going to give away a book with one of our guests too. So those are a lot of fun. We usually announce them live on the choir practices. So we load the B.O.L.O with extra content that you don't normally see on the YouTube channel or in social. So,
and how much does that B.O.L.O cost?
Costs one Dr. Pepper.
Oh, it does?
No, it's free. It's free. Yep, of course. It's a newsletter that goes out bi-weekly, and
Well, thanks, folks. So they can go to the Profiling Evil website, and at the top there's a link to sign up for the B.O.L.O. And then when the drawings come up for the books, those will pop up just as a separate thing, right?
Correct. Yep.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Really appreciate it. Yeah, that was awesome. And got a shout out to the Dr. Pepper folks. I got this incredibly huge shipment of Dr. Pepper this week, so I've been
we're set.
I've been on cloud nine.
And thanks to all of you who also donate to the Dr. Pepper Fund, because sometimes we go a couple weeks dry in between shipments, right? So it helps to with the Dr. Pepper Fund. All right, so let's get into it. YouTube subscriber not spend. Absolutely, RV there yet? It is absolutely okay to be a YouTube subscriber and not spend any additional money. We do not want anyone here thinking they need to spend money on anything. The donations are obviously much appreciated, and we do what we can with them to continue to do this, but not required at all.
Yeah, and I just want to say on that vein, folks, you don't need to donate. We try to answer questions of those that donate, and when the super chats pop up, they get a lot of attention because they're a different color and they stay up there longer. And frankly, we try to answer those because you are kind enough to donate a little bit of money. But the fact that you're not does not change things. The channel still is here. Just know that when you do, it's something that we can use to continue to pay, because it's kind of expensive to run these channels. You got to pay for software and all kinds of things that I never even imagined. So thanks so much. And thanks for those of you who are channel members. That really helps a lot as well. But yeah, thanks.
Great.
And no, you don't have to pay.
Well, we missed quite a few questions, and so we're going to get started right now. Start typing your questions in. Again, like Mike said, super chats will take priority, but we'll try to get to as many questions in general as we can. So let me see if I can find one real quick. Nicole Marie, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. I see somebody saying maybe reach out to the back office or something on these. So here's a question. Kirsty Martin, what's your opinion on the way Brian Laundrie died and the timeline between his and Gabby's deaths?
Yeah, I don't know yet how he died, because they haven't announced anything other than the fact that his body was recovered in the marsh. The interesting thing, I think, is going to be the timing, and with the entomologists and with forensics backing him up, they're going to be able to tell us when roughly he would have died, so that we have an idea of how long after Gabby's death that occurred and how long after he was last seen in the neighborhood. The thing that's going to be interesting is, again, think of all of the sightings that were reported, the reports on everywhere about answering emails and Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts. And I think what we're going to find is that he was dead when all of that was going on. So the question becomes, are people ghosting his sites and fiddling, or what's going on there? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he overdosed with medication, which if they get enough tissue, they'll be able to determine that. If there were any indications of gunshot or anything like that, or if it's predation. And predation, folks, is animals causing the death. And again, with his body being scattered over a fairly large area, you have to consider predation, or the fact that animals tearing at a deceased body could carry that off into other locations, and it would make it look like somebody had purposely spread it out when it was just an artifact of animals doing that. In addition, you got to consider the fact that the environment, the fact this water was going up and down, I don't know what kind of current there is involved in that water. The body, when it's in water at certain points of decomposition, will float in certain temperature ranges. And so that body could have been moved by natural events as well. And I'm probably yammering on way too long on this. So
no, that's just fine. So 10,000 miles. Sorry, everybody. I have like an eyelash in my eye or something that's driving me nuts. Hey, was too clear to be Dr. Pepper, by the way.
Yeah, they told me when I got my shot today, leave the Dr. Pepper alone for a few hours and drink water.
So 10,000 miles. Why don't they release the cell phone data on the Summer Wells case?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly why 10,000 miles is because it's an ongoing investigation and they need to be able to keep some information close to the vest. It is so important when you are investigating these kinds of crimes that there are sometimes only things that you and the offender or the target of an interrogation or an interview know about. And if we're releasing everything, or if they are releasing everything, there's nothing where you can validate and say, this guy, I think, is telling the truth because he knows something that nobody else knows. He knows a location that the phone would have been, or she knew a location that the phone would have been. So it's really important, even as frustrating as it is that we want all this information, that they keep a lot of it close to the vest, because that's the stuff that really tells you this person actually knows what happened in that case.
So here's something that I think's on a lot of people's minds. T Diva, when Don Wells was arrested for DUI this weekend, do you think that his behavior is escalating?
Yeah, I hope you all will weigh in on this, and I want you to weigh in on a couple of thoughts that I've had as I've looked at this. Number one, he was arrested for, I think, an open container and a traffic violation. And of course, there will be questions about his toxicity at that time. It is probably safe to reason, since he sent out his own press release afterward, that he made a really stupid decision and drove after drinking, said he needed cigarettes. Well, you know what? That was a really dumb thing to do. Imagine the stress that they're under. I think that this is going to be a reoccurring nightmare for the Wells family as they continue to do this, as they continue to face the spotlight. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle the attention that the Dr. Phil show will bring in a few weeks. It's going to be interesting to see at different points as this case escalates and de-escalates. And like we talked about in the crime report this week, we're going to see them continuing to try to manage all of those things on their own personal Facebook page and YouTube page and their website. So all in all, it's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm with you. This whole thing just continues to tell me of the amount of stress, and that stress, is sometimes evident because people are involved in a problem. As a perpetrator, sometimes think about it, how stressed you would be if your 5-year-old child disappeared. Who knows what you would do. And so we have to try to not place our own value system on them as we make determinations of what we think may or may not happen.
Yep. So Sarah Vocek, if I said your name right, hopefully. Question: do you have any advice for those wanting to start a podcast or a YouTube channel?
It's a lot more work than you think it's going to be. And if you have a creative bone and you want to have some fun, go for it. And I just think what a cool thing that some galump like me could go out and just start yammering and talking, and others would find that entertaining. And maybe I should be offended that you're entertained. I don't know, but go for it. Heck, what do you got to lose? And if you do it and you like it, keep doing it.
Doesn't happen overnight either.
No,
can't expect it to be, just do it for a month and hopefully it takes off. I mean, it kind of goes like this, right?
Yeah.
You have some really great months with lots of good growth and lots of really bad months with no growth, and you just got to keep doing it. If you want to do it.
Challenge that I find, and folks, I mean, please weigh in and tell me how you feel about this, is I hear about cases that I think are so compelling and you could care less. And it's like, how do you somehow balance between, let's talk about Summer Wells and Suzanne Morphew, but let's not forget Lauren DeMolo or Ellen Greenberg, or this week, I hope you'll tune in Wednesday and Friday to hear about Ricardo Morales. People that maybe just aren't as grabbing as a Gabby Petito, and that's a little frustrating for me at times. But anyway, I want to see what people are saying about that, Skyeler.
Yeah, find what you're good at, mix it with what people want to hear, and that's how you do it. Haley Ellen, what are your thoughts on the Zodiac killer case?
Zodiac is one of those that you all learn about when you're going through any kind of profiling training, and you talk about the case characteristics and the behavioral traits that are going on in it. The thing that I think about Zodiac is how cool is it that this far down the trail, people are still talking about it and still wondering if this thing has all been put back together and figured out. And I know we got some folks from Oz on, and it's cool to see a global environment take and pay attention to these cases.
Yeah. Question. So, hey, Mimi, question, Mike, can we give some advice to Nicole Marie, our moderator, who has a missing friend?
Wow, Mimi J2, thanks. I didn't know, Nicole, and if you've sent it,
Hold on. So this is it right here. My best friend of 30 years went missing Tuesday night after leaving the house, and I feel our community lacks resources for something like this. Suggestions?
Wow. Well, Nicole Marie, I mean, the big thing isn't it cool nowadays that people can immediately set up a Facebook page, start creating an environment where they can start getting the message out and continuing to bang the drum. And that's really what it's all about, is use the resources that you have without impacting negatively the law enforcement investigation. And, you think about this, your friend left, and I don't know the circumstances, and maybe you can send us something on that, or we can get a little more info on that. But there are nearly 900,000 people just like your friend every single year that disappear. And it takes a while, but 87% of them come back home and return. So they get kind of mad. They go to Vegas for the weekend, but then they come back. But that leaves 104,000 to 110,000 people every single year that become the Suzanne Morphews or the Gabby Petitos or the Angela Greens. And the only way you're going to keep those cases alive is to continue to pound the drum, and social media is the perfect medium to do that. We're going to talk tonight, just as we wrap up, about a case that's 30 years old, a murder, and the fact that they haven't stopped pounding the drum. So this is a perfect night to kind of maybe talk about what you're talking about there and what happens tonight later.
Yeah, I think social media can be extremely powerful if used appropriately, not like you said to harm an investigation or anything like that. But you think of any celebrity or any of the bigger celebrities, we all know who they are because they're everywhere, right? We've never met them. They're everywhere. And so social media can serve as a tool to get the face out there. So maybe, just maybe, if they're still able to be recovered, somebody will notice who they are.
And I'll tell you what, sometimes those cases jump into the forefront. I did not go a night watching the news in Poland, Latvia, Germany, Czech Republic that Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito weren't talked about. So sometimes these things grab attention. Zodiac, someone mentioned earlier, is another case, grab global attention.
Right. Perfect. There was a question of what does B.O.L.O stand for? Mike, I'll let you answer it.
Be on the lookout. It's an old police term. And you know how the government always makes acronyms out of everything. So be on the lookout, B.O.L.O. And when we were tooling that, putting things together, we thought that'd be kind of a fun name just to kind of stick with the law enforcement theme.
So Lee's Entertainment, no way. This is engaging. The ability to talk to you via chat makes us so much different than shows that just talk at us. Well, I think we do a lot of talking at you during the week. So at least one time a week, we want you to be able to talk too.
Thanks, Lisa Davis. I really appreciate that. And you know what? It took a while for that to sink in, and thanks to the back office, it did sink in because I had so much stuff I wanted to say that I forgot a really important thing that I believed as an investigator my entire career, and that is be interested, not interesting. And we need to know what you're asking.
I feel like Tyler popped that one up. Oh, we missed the other one. Well, okay. Monica Cook, maybe touch base on the Ogden, Utah hi-fi murders.
Ooh, boy, I'll tell you, that's a tender one that I know people who were involved in. I know the investigation inside and out. Folks, the hi-fi murders, if you ever look it up, was a murder inside of a stereo shop called the Hi-Fi Shop. And 2 airmen from Hill Air Force Base came into the business and took all of the employees hostage, took them into the basement, and executed a number of them in horrendous ways. It was a horrible case. Yeah, you should look that up sometime, and maybe sometime we can bring the investigators that got the interviews in that and witnessed the executions and other things in. That would be so.
All right, Rico. Sorry, this is the one we popped off, I think. Was the case of the 2 ladies in proximity of Gabby's death, does it have any answers?
You know, Rico, it keeps coming up, and it comes up because it just makes sense that it should come up. Those Brian Laundrie in that vicinity, same day, same grocery store, too many things that say they were in the same neck of the woods. And the fact that we don't know what Brian Laundrie was doing after he and Gabby separated. But what we do know is that Sheriff Stephen White, who I want you to know, folks, I have investigated homicides with Sheriff White. He is a gifted investigator, now the boss. But Sheriff White has made it very clear through statements a few months ago that they did not believe that Brian Laundrie was tied to the homicide of the 2 women in Moab, Utah. Now, who knows if something more may come out to change that direction. But right now, I just keep going back to the fact that government has said right now, no tie to that event. So we'll see. What do you think, Rico? Send a note to the rest of you.
Emma Booth, what are your thoughts on the Jonbenet Ramsay murder?
So I got chewed out a little bit last week because I didn't say much about Jonbenet, and it was a very emotional case. I was fortunate to see a lot of the evidence, especially the evidence that was handled by the Secret Service, who were helping with handwriting analysis and other things. It is difficult to look at victimology, and your choice becomes very simply based on the victimology. There's no question that Jonbenet Ramsay, as a little child in the evening at home, in her home, would be considered a low-risk victim. But when we think about the victim risk continuum, and I hope you'll go back, folks, and look at my videos on the victim risk continuum, because it'll help you better understand this. But here's how this works: is after looking at hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of homicides and violent crimes, it was determined that there are 2 kinds of victims: high-risk victims and low-risk victims. A high-risk victim would be someone like a sex trade worker or a drug addict or someone like that. A low-risk victim would be like a Jonbenet Ramsay, who's at home, who did these pageants, which increased her risk, but she was home when this happened. What we've learned by studying all of these cases is that high-risk victims, when they become victimized, are targets, and it's an opportunistic kind of a crime. And I got that backwards. A high-risk victim is a victim of opportunity. It's just they just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they generally do not know their perpetrator, the person who hurts them. A low-risk victim, on the other hand, like a Jonbenet Ramsay, is a target of whatever that aggressive act is. And statistically, they're going to know who the offender was, or at least the offender, maybe through window peeking or other things, is going to know who the victim is. And the only thing that changes those statistics and kind of sways the numbers is situation, circumstance, or environment. And so to maybe kind of paint a clearer picture, and this is important, Skyeler, so I'm going to kind of carry on for a minute here, is let's take Skyler's mom, for instance. She's a low-risk person. When he was growing up, she went to church on Sunday. She went to the grocery store on Saturday. She played the piano for the PTA on Tuesdays, but she had a tight-knit circle of friends. She didn't go out to bars, and she didn't go out at night. But let's say that all of a sudden, at 11 o'clock at night, she gets a phone call that her closest friend is in a hospital 300 miles away and is going to die soon. If she ever wants to see that friend again, she has to go right then and there. By simply going out and getting in her car and starting a drive by herself, her risk level starts to increase. And what we've seen in these cases is a low-risk person can become high risk based on the changes in the environment. So, Jonbenet, we have to go back and seriously say, what's the possibility? And there are lots of possibilities that she had the boogeyman break into her house and commit this murder and then slip away as a low-risk victim versus someone in the house. And there are multiple theories around that. Now, there is evidence to suggest and favor both kinds of ideas, that the boogeyman did it or that family members did it. And for some reason, the police department has never been able to put the case together tight enough to bring charges and file those charges. So I don't know, hopefully that little bit of rambling helped.
That's good. I did see this one. Mike, are you wanting to go into politics?
Hey, Em, thanks so much. No, I don't want to go into politics, although when I was younger, I was in the final selection for our local sheriff. And I remember my daughter saying to me, I don't want you to be a sheriff. And my wife saying, why would you do this to your family? And so the greatest blessing for me was that they selected somebody else. But no, I don't want to go into politics.
Whoa. I'm all blurry, aren't I?
Yeah, you can work on that while we answer the next question.
Sorry. Man, I just got chewed up for not going fast enough from you. Kim, so Mike, what did you decide to wear for Halloween? Didn't we give you some suggestions last week?
You gave some great suggestions, Kim, and I really appreciated them. And I dressed up like a dumpy old man. Oh, I'm still in my costume, so never mind.
Yeah, we weren't big on. Oh gosh, no, I did not. I'm just kidding.
All righty.
Okay. No, next year.
Really
I actually did.
I love this.
I did actually look up some mall cop costumes on Amazon, but couldn't get one in time. Why do you think Fauci's attorney dropped the possessed claim?
You know, Tina, I have not followed that enough. I have all the theatrics around COVID have been something that I just haven't followed, just because there's so many persons crimes, and I'm not going to minimize at all what's going on, other than to say I just am not up to speed on that. Tina, would you please put maybe some of your thoughts in? It would be interesting to see.
So real quick for everybody, this is Ask Mike Anything or an Ask Me Anything type of night. So please throw your questions into the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can. Super chats will get priority. Before we do that, Mike, I did want to talk quickly about what we're going to do this holiday season.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So a lot of you have or want She Knew No Fear, one of Mike's books, as well as Deceived, an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult. So what we're going to do for the holidays this year is we're going to offer both books. I think this one is both books signed by Mike for I think it's $40 for both, right? So both books signed for $40.
Hardbound books.
Hardbound books. Yeah, hardbound nice books for the holidays. So look on the website probably tomorrow or something, right, Tyler? And we'll have those ready to go by then. But we thought we'd do something, you know, I don't know. There's not much we can do for you guys. You do so much for us. So hopefully this is something fun for the holidays.
Yeah. Thanks, Skyeler. That's nice. And folks, thanks to all of you who have donated to those books, bought books. I had a conversation today with the Children's Justice Center, and I'm just so excited to announce that the seed money that we put in play to build a new Children's Justice Center is paying off. We're getting closer to having a location to start building a brand new Children's Justice Center where children can be forensically examined and taken through the court process. So it was exciting. And for those of you who aren't aware, purchasing Deceived, the proceeds are going to this Children's Justice Center. And we're just so thrilled to be a part of it. It was so nice to hear from the director what's happening.
Roll Tide Rita, stepping a little bit away from some of the true crime. So favorite band, singer, song, any of it?
Well, you know, I'm kind of a ballad person. I really liked Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I still crank it up every once in a while, which really shows who I am. But I kind of liked Bread too. And then when I'm in a really funky mood, I go back to my childhood, and I actually put on, I hate to even admit this, I actually put on Eddie Arnold and Jim Reeves because that's what my mother listened to when I was a kid, and I listened to that. And so whenever I want to really get under the skin of those around me, I fire up the Jim Reeves and the Eddie Arnold stuff.
Oh, geez. RV there yet? Duty Ron said last night there were 5 other dead bodies found in the vicinity of Gabby's remains during the search in Moab.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, there are dead bodies being recovered every single day, everywhere across the country. I was on the phone last night with Jared from Adventures with Purpose. They found another body just a few days ago. I mean, this is, again, part of this tragedy of 104 to 110,000 people every single year that disappear off the face of the planet. That's bigger than most cities in America that disappear. And so the fact that bodies are being found because of a dedicated search in one area or another is not that surprising. But yeah, I'm glad Ron brought that up. He's such a good guy, and I really appreciate him.
So, what? Yeah, good question. What's going on in that area? It's a pretty popular location here in Utah, just so everyone's aware. It's a very touristy town.
Yeah, in fact, when you're in Europe, the biggest advertisements are for the Big Five, they call it, the 5 national parks in Utah, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and that was something I think we talked about with how they supposedly handled the case, right? Is you have a city that's got a budget for the population they have, but their population during the day fluctuates tremendously from all the tourists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so their police force, it could be a little small. So much more lately. I'm assuming when it comes to what we're talking about, murders,
on the dead bodies
violence,
and stuff. Yeah, that's interesting, Joy Catcher. I wonder as well, but you are right on one particular point that I believe, and something that I kind of projected, sadly, a year and a half ago, and that was we were seeing reductions in crime during the beginning of the pandemic, and police departments across the world were taking credit for these reductions in crime, primarily in property crime and other things. But now, as the secrets start to become revealed, I'm afraid we're going to see more and more crimes against persons that occurred. The FBI just released that there was a 20% increase in violent crime across America last year. I think those numbers are going to be understated when we start learning, and as kids get back into school full time and get back where they have a safety net. I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of serious stuff happening.
Yeah. Kathy Doherty, Color Street Stylist. So what do you like to watch on TV to unwind?
You know, I'm still kind of hooked on Seinfeld, and so I go on Netflix and I watch Seinfeld.
My Netflix, by the way.
Yeah. Don't be talking about that.
Oh yeah, we can't say that. No, we don't share.
And then I like to get into these. So when I ride my bike in the morning, I watch Star Trek Voyager because it is so. Well, I don't want to say it's bad or good, but anyway, I watch Star Trek Voyager
Very
when I'm
realistic.
riding my bike in the morning. But I'm not a cop show watcher, although I do like to go see a movie that's a cop show movie once in a while.
How do you get used to calling your dad Mike? I mean, I grew up watching The Simpsons, and Bart always called Homer, so that's kind of, I think we're stuck. Walter Jack Burgess. Mr. King, have you ever been arrested? I think this was for you, not me.
Wow. Well, Walter, I can honestly say I have never been arrested, but I have been handcuffed hundreds of times in training.
That was ended not how I thought it would. All right, AMA. Here's an issue. Emmy Nikolov, and this could bring up a good opportunity to talk about the evidence room. Have you guys covered the Heidi Broussard case out of Texas?
You know what? Yeah, Skyeler, why don't you hit on the evidence room? Because Emmy, I do not know that case.
So profilingevil.com/evidence room is where you need to go. The link is down below in the bio and everything like that. Or in the description, whatever, not the bio. Anyway, so evidence room is where you can submit all these cases you're hearing of. The more information you put in, meaning like the more front end work that you do, the more likely we are to actually look at it. We get a lot of these a day, a lot more than you'd expect, which you probably expect a lot. But the ones that actually catch our attention are the ones that already have a lot of the groundwork done where we can pick up. You know, we unfortunately don't have all the time in the world. As of right now, we're still a growing channel to just do all the legwork. So it really helps when you guys help us.
Yeah, thank you.
And
I'll tell you, this week's podcast launching on Wednesday in audio on whatever your favorite podcast platform is, and then the video premiere on Friday is about Ricardo Morales, a young man who was murdered by a police chief in Texas. And that came through the evidence room. And so I just want to shout out that we do respond to those and we try to jump in on those. That one was so compelling that I flew to San Antonio and met with the family and went out to the murder site and to the site of his grave. And again, one of those that you may not get all the attention that some of these other cases get, but I hope you'll tune in and listen to it.
Yeah. So Nina would like to know if you've covered the Delphi murders.
You know, I've talked about Delphi in a couple. I put up a map early on where I was concerned about some of the movement. I've had a number of discussions with Gray Hughes, who I think has done a really nice job on some of his content. We differ in some of the philosophy or thought of what may or may not have happened. But yes, I have looked at that case and continue to monitor it. And I want you to know that I actually spoke with the investigators in that case, and out of respect for them and at their request, I'm waiting until they reach back out to me to say they're ready to talk about it.
So Sherilyn Schaffner, thank you so much for the super chat or the donation, however those work. Mike, do you Realize that you have such a cop's face as you read the comments. You give nothing away. Might just be the lack of being able to see, but we'll take the poker face.
Yeah, thanks, Shirley.
So this is actually a very interesting question. This is one that really troubled me. My wife and I read just the news articles about this. I don't know, Mike, if you saw it, but your thoughts on the 3 boys found living with their dead sibling for nearly a year.
Yeah, I mean, aren't these disturbing? And you hear about them on a regular basis. This one is going to have some really interesting characteristics unfolding as we learn more. Usually we end up seeing something where maybe an elderly person has their spouse in the freezer or down in the cellar under,
Yeah.
some dirt, and there's a functional reason. They, in their wacky way of thinking, are hanging on to the Social Security payments that are coming in, or the section housing that they're getting because of that person. Again, this one's going to be kind of interesting, and it'll be interesting to see what the actual cause of death was. Was it a homicide, an accident? What was the cause of death? But regardless, there's a period of time where you should be reporting it to the police. So really disturbing.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Rittenhouse? The gun thing confuses me. We don't keep them in the UK without reason. It confuses me. It's so controversial.
You know what? I'm sorry. I'm not remembering that. It's a UK case, it sounds like, or just the fact that you're in the UK and the weapon thing is interesting. I'm really sorry. I don't know on that one. Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff about it, but I haven't read into it too much. Stacy Merkman, since Don has a parole or probation violation, will he have to max? Can the Fed strike a deal with him so he please to tell us that what he knows about Summer's disappearance?
Well, Stacy, thanks for that question. Number one, the fact that Don has a parole or probation violation, I don't know how that's going to play into this traffic and an arrest that he recently had. And getting him to plead to something that we don't know that he is either responsible or for not. I mean, I know there are opinions on both sides of it, but it's tough to say, yeah, we should expect a plea on what he knows, because maybe he's already told us what he knows. And based on what has been released by government and the people that should be releasing information, we don't know that he is involved. That's the tough part.
Yeah. So back to Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, it happened a little while ago during the riots. Remember, it was that young kid that shot those protesters out of self-defense, right?
Yeah, and they just ruled that the protesters were causing a riot, which then minimized his risk of criminal charges. Yeah. You know what? That whole rioting period of time in our country was so disturbing to me personally, that people would show up to protest something, a right that we have in our country to protest and complain, but showing up with weapons slung over your shoulder, and that was just so intimidating and so disturbing to me. And then it just seems like it's a natural course that somebody else would take something to the next step and the next step. And so I don't know. And what a horrible place for government to be placed in, to allow people the right to bear arms and yet know and put police officers in front of them, not knowing whether that weapon is going to be suddenly turned on them. The whole thing was disturbing and distasteful. And you may like guns, you may not like guns, but police officers shouldn't be put in a position where they're staring at people with a weapon, wondering if that person who's rioting or protesting is going to do something goofy.
Yeah, I agree. An interesting question. Have you seen the progress on the new state penitentiary? Yeah, the new state jail prison looks to be state of the art. Looks like it will keep inmates and correction officers safer.
Boy, that's the goal, isn't it? Be able to move inmates through the facility in a safer way, be able to protect inmates who are at risk against being hurt by other inmates, being able to prevent security and correctional officers from being injured. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, sorry, I clicked through like 10 different ones because I kept missing this one. Diana M. Did we ever hear back on that dealer plate we recovered in East Canyon?
Thank
Reservoir?
you, Diana. We have not gotten confirmation, although it is appearing like that plate may have been associated to a vehicle in a different area, whether it can be tied back to Lloyd Reese's theft of a plate to go up to the canyon or not. We don't know. And again, this is part of the investigative process and how slowly things churn along. I will say to all of you who have interest in Lloyd Reese, we have now got the stone back. They are setting the cement for the stone. And I suspect, and we're hoping before snow flies, that we'll be able to get that grave site, the stone put in there, and the family will be able to have some services for Lloyd at that grave site. So thanks again to everybody who helped on that. And we'll fill you in when that actually happens.
So something we just kind of talked about, how do we hear about all these different cases? One of them, I think, is overwhelming social media coverage of things. That's kind of how we are attracted to certain cases, because it's out there. A lot of people are talking about it, but also through our evidence room. So you can find a link below in the description to the evidence room and submit cases there. Remember, as much information as you can will help us a lot.
Yeah, thanks. And hey, good to see Mike. Dirty Mag Yackers, thanks. Really appreciate it. Yeah, 85 guns they found in rivers, 4 cold cases they've solved with their magnets. And if you remember, folks, go back. We had them on, and definitely we got to get you back. So good to see you. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to grab just 1 or 2 more questions, and we're going to move on to something else for just a minute. We'll end with some more questions, everybody. Let's see. I don't know what that is. I was going to see this. Okay. Do you think Barry Morphew's lawsuits against witnesses, DA and Ellie, will be successful?
Personally, I do not, Patty Cake. And actually, I've been talking to a couple of people. We're going to be exploring a couple of things in the coming weeks on this topic and some others related to the Morphew case. But again, imagine how can you go after law enforcement officers for doing their job? I mean that, and I know that in the document, the attorneys for Barry are suggesting that law enforcement ignored and in spite went after Barry. But I think that's going to be a pretty tall fence to climb.
Great. Well, Mike, you have a special guest here tonight. I want to give you the opportunity to introduce her. We'll take a few minutes talking. Oh, both of them are here now. We'll take a few minutes talking with them, and then we'll move back into some questions. So save your questions for a minute about things outside of what we're about to go over, but we'll get to those in a little bit. But go ahead, Mike.
Great. I want to bring on Dennis Westenhoff's daughters. If you remember, we talked about Dennis, who was murdered 30 years ago. He was an undercover narcotics agent, and he went out to work early morning, February 15th. And as he started his police car, an undercover car, it exploded. And 3 hours later, he died. And these beautiful women, Jen and Melissa, and I recently had the opportunity to travel and do the Dr. Phil show on a show that's going to come out this week. But I just wanted to get you two on for 2 reasons. One is to plug your Facebook page. And, you know, we've had a lot of people tonight talking about how powerful social media can be. And then I want you just to and we're all under contract, so you can't say too much, but just talk a little bit about that experience and all the fun you had getting your faces made up and everything else. So Melissa, hi. Jen, hi. Thanks so
Hi.
much for coming on.
Thanks
And
for having us.
I'm going to start out first, just because we always got to have a little bit of an interesting twist to this. Melissa, I want you to just tell everyone the story about a little girl who begged her daddy to go to a daddy-daughter Valentine dance.
Yep, back 1990, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Every year our school held the what we called the father-daughter dance. And, my father took my sister every year as well, but this was the final year for elementary school for our father's, children. So my dad ended up taking off from work. He was due to work on the 14th of February. Instead, he decided to take off of work to make sure that he could take me to that father-daughter dance up at my school. So, coincidentally, that was the night before he was killed. So we at least got to have that special evening together, before his passing.
And Jen, I mean, talk about why that day, the 14th, is so amazing and so important and so touching that your dad decided to call in that night and say, I'm not going to work. I'm going to go to a dance instead.
Well, I mean, we obviously think it's so important in retrospect now, because my sister was able to experience that last night with him. And, she got to have moments that she won't have ever again. And, it's just almost a blessing in disguise that he did that. So we're glad for her that she has that memory.
Yeah. Jen, you are the first Wustenhoff I spoke to about this case. And we have, for the last year, dug and twisted and turned, and with the help of people like Ray Kelly and the investigators who worked this case for 30 years, the family, your brother who is now wearing your father's badge and working in the same police department. It has been a pretty amazing year leading up to filming with Dr. Phil. What's that been like for you?
I mean, just the exposure, being on your show, going to Dr. Phil. He's such a gentleman. He took such wonderful care of us. We're very excited for the show, November 10th. And we have you to thank for it, because you were certainly the path that got us there. And we're just very excited and hope that it brings good things to us.
Now, Melissa, without telling anything, we're going to reveal some stuff that's never been talked about before. How has that felt as the family has kind of wrapped their arms around that?
You go all these years having this thing that you carry on your shoulders. You feel like there's really not much you can do. And then comes to a point where you're like, that's it. We're not sitting back anymore. And it's empowering because you finally get a voice and you're like, wait a second, we're not going to sit back and be quiet anymore. And we tell a lot of things that we've never spoken about before. A huge thing would be my mom, speaks a lot with Dr. Phil. So she doesn't really, it's a very difficult subject for her, as it is for us, but it's extremely hard for her. So this is huge that we get to see our mom speak, and even it brought tears to our eyes, and we know the story, so just so proud of her to be able to kind of get out there and tell her story and really what happened to us, and what this really did to our family as just people.
And Jen, it's the only time Fran's talking, your mom has talked publicly about this case.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally she's popped on to the news interviews with us, but very, very brief. Dr. Phil got her in the chair, and she said her story, and it's a version that people haven't heard. So like my sister said, we're very proud of her. They've all heard the criminal side of things and our perspective as children, but nobody's really heard from our mom. And so we think everyone will certainly want to tune in to hear her version of our life.
Yeah, and folks, if you haven't seen the story on Dennis Wustenhoff and his murder, go back, look in the Profiling Evil episodes, and you'll find that. But know that on Wednesday, on the Dr. Phil show, there is going to be information revealed there that has never been revealed before. And Jen, if you would, just share with everyone your Facebook page and how they can sign up and become members of the Facebook page. And then, Melissa, if you wouldn't mind, would you then talk about, and I just lost my train of thought. So start first, Jen.
Well, you can find us on Facebook at Justice for Dennis Wustenhoff. See my sister's shirt, whichever way she is from me. We also have a website now, justicefordenniswustenhoff.com. And you can learn a little bit about him and unfortunately, his murder. We also have some merchandise there that all the profits will go to a high school scholarship. But, our Facebook page is very important to us. We don't just talk about his murder. We talk about him. We share photos. We share stories. We share information. And there's about 7,000 people on the page now. And we, awesome. We hope, more people join us on our journey.
Well, hopefully there will be a batch more that sign up tonight. Jen, Melissa, I remember what I was going to ask you, but I'm just going to say it. Make sure you're tuning in on Wednesday, folks, for Dr. Phil. Catch this episode. You're not going to want to miss it. And this is a critically important timing because there's a brand new district attorney going through elections right now in this area who could choose to file murder charges in this case. So to both of you, you know how I feel about you. You're loved. I loved being with you and spending time with you and your family on the show. And as soon as the show's over, we're going to get you back and talk a little more.
That would be great. And just to let everybody know, it's Wednesday, November 10th. So tune in. Next Wednesday.
So not this Wednesday.
Right. That's okay.
Gotcha.
They can tune in this Wednesday also. Dr. Phil's awesome.
Good episode regardless.
November 10th, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So whatever time that is, wherever everybody's watching. CBS. And, come see what goes on in our lives. And
really important, the Facebook page. I know that we have to kind of end here, but we're very interactive on it. So you go there, we're the ones that are talking to you and responding, and there's a very interactive conversation going on, and people are asking questions, and we can answer anything that we're allowed to answer or put out there, because of course it is still an open case. So certain information is private, but we try to discuss as much as we can and talk to everybody individually as much as possible. So we will always answer questions and comments.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Go there, see the picture of the family with Dr. Phil, and ladies, we'll talk to you next week after the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you guys
so much.
Thank you for having us. Have a great night.
Aren't they incredible?
That's awesome.
I just love those two, and their brother Kevin. What a rock! He is doing such a good job as a police officer. But without question, their mother Fran is a rock star, and getting her to show up and do the show that took a little bit of coaxing, and she was amazing. So don't miss the show, folks.
Yeah, and seeing some questions pop through. We're sorry, that's a really frustrating teaser. You all want to know more, but we can't say more. So that's it. So you'll have to wait a week and a half now. Perfect.
Go back and watch the episode on him. You'll get the whole story about what happened, but you won't get what we're releasing in the show after a year's worth of work.
Well, we're gonna wrap it up here, everybody, for just a few more minutes of questions for Mike, or Tyler, Tim, whomever, here at Profiling Evil. So Judy Johnson, Mike, will you be having District Attorney Linda Stanley back on before Barry's trial?
I don't know that it will make sense before his trial. We'll get the DA back at some point when it makes sense. Right now, with one DA, Jeff Lindsay, stepping down and going to another county, that's created a workload for them that they need to focus on. So
an interesting question. I'm not gonna pop it up, but I'm gonna adjust it a little bit. What are the ramifications when misleading or wrong information is given out on a, whether it's in the news or anything like that about a case or social media? Are there any ramifications when misleading, incorrect, or even indemnifying information is sent out?
Well, I think it's going to boil down if the idea is there something defamatory that happened, like what Barry Morphew is complaining of. It's going to be, what evidence did you have? What did you make your decision on? Was it sound, or were you just doing something that you knew was not true in order to hurt somebody? And that's going to be really interesting to see how they get over that. Now, imagine how disruptive just that letter has been in the lives of all those investigators and everyone else who are trying to work on putting together a murder case. That in and of itself makes many people wonder if it's not part of a strategy. And I did see one question that I wanted to pop up right after this one. So,
okay. Sonia would like to know if you really think it was Brian's body they found. Seems a little,
you know what,
sketchy.
Sonia, I absolutely do believe they found Brian's body. And I don't believe they found a tooth somewhere and said, yeah, that's Brian's. I think they have something much more profound, teeth in the jawbone, something, because they either have the top part of the skull with teeth or they have the full jawbone with teeth. But I honestly believe that it was Brian's body that they found.
Go ahead with your question.
So Kathy Doherty asked about Alex Murdoch. And if you remember this case, folks, we talked about it a little bit. I did a video on it. Plus, I went on to Court TV with Vinnie Politan, and we talked through the case on his show as well. This Alex Murdoch is an attorney in South Carolina. His son was involved in and was being charged with negligent homicide for the death of an 18-year-old woman when they were drinking and taking the boat wildly up a river and crashed into the pier or into the bridge abutments. And she was thrown out and either through blunt force trauma or drowning died. And I can't remember exactly how she died. He was awaiting trial, and suddenly he and his mother were gunned down and murdered on the family ranch. And Murdoch found them, called 911, and reported the murder. Now, the intriguing thing was that they were killed with different weapons. So one was killed with a shotgun blast, if I remember, the boy, and the mother was killed with a rifle. So you really start to wonder what was the timing and who died first or who was shot first. And you start being able to piece together some conspiracy theories that all they are conspiracy theories. Time went on. Oh, and during all of this, their housekeeper died, Skyeler, and she died in a mysterious way. And Murdoch allegedly promised to get money and did, in fact, get millions of dollars in a settlement for her death, but didn't give it to the family, kept it for himself. And then things got even goofier because he was driving down the road one afternoon and had some car trouble, got out of his car, and a guy shot him in the head, Alex Murdoch in the head. The bullet just kind of grazed him, but he called 911, went to the hospital, and they later determined he'd actually hired the guy to execute him, but the guy blew it and missed him, hit him enough to bloody his head a little bit. Well, they've now determined that he has a horrible narcotics addiction and was offing money, stealing money from the family law firm that he worked for, and doing that to pay for his narcotics habit. And the whole world is unraveling around him. So there's my short response about what I know about Alec Murdoch. And we can talk more about that at some time. And Kath Doherty, I hope that kind of answered and brought everybody up to speed on that wacky situation.
That's wild. Candlely, thank you for the $5. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Candlely. That's nice.
Ellis would like to know. Ellis says suing a potential witness sounds like an attempt at witness intimidation. Your thoughts?
Wow. Well, Ellis, I don't want to step over the edge to say something like that, but I would agree with you that it certainly is something that people are discussing in the media, of whether it's a form of intimidation or distraction, or if it's based on true facts. And frankly, if it's based on true facts, then it needs to be pursued. It just doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah. Well, everybody, I think we're getting to the end of the questions for tonight. Again, one last time, look for it tomorrow, but we will have on the site both of Mike's books, She Knew No Fear and Deceived, available for the holidays. So $40.
And let me just say what those are about for those that may not know, if you don't mind, Skyeler. Deceived is my investigation into a ritual cult that was sexually abusing children and resulted in about 4,000 rapes and sexual assaults. It happened because a few years ago, the victims in that case reached out to me and asked me to tell the story. And so was very honored to do that. She Knew No Fear is a 130-year-old murder case of Jane McKechnie Walton, who walked across the American plains after sailing from Scotland to America in the 1850s. She was later killed on a statehood holiday in 1891. Happens to be my great-great-grandmother, Skyeler's great-great-great-grandmother. And this book is about my investigation into her life and solving her murder 130 years later.
Awesome. So again, everybody, both books available starting probably tomorrow for $40 for the holiday season, signed. So we will make him sit down and we will watch him sign every single one. But that's we're trying to, like I said earlier, think of something for you. And hopefully this is a fun way to get the books. Mike, any last words before we wrap up for the evening?
You know, it's going to be another big week. We're looking into Ellen Greenberg's case. Again, this is a woman who seemed to be on top of the world, preparing for a wedding, stabbed 20 times, Skyeler, 20 times, 10 times in the neck and shoulder area and back of the head. And it was ruled as a suicide. I'm going to have Dr. Amy on with me, and we're going to talk a little bit about that case and just explore some of the bumps in the road there and why that family is suing the medical examiner's office in Pennsylvania to get that ruling changed from suicide to homicide, and then all the other cases that keep unrolling.
Well, we appreciate everybody for being here again. As always, if I don't get to your questions, I'm sorry. We try, but keep coming back to the AMAs. Eventually we'll get you. We try to answer as many as we can. But I'll leave the last word with you, Mike, from those of us at Profiling Evil. We thank everybody for being here tonight. And Mike, we'll let you wrap it up.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon at the next crime scene. And maybe we'll push the end button if the back off.